Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Cybersecurity Amplified and Intensified with your host, Eric Taylor, and myself, Shiva Maharaj. Today, we have Jonathan Scott, who I was following on Twitter, and he mentioned something about Pegasus. So I said, hey, let's talk. I guess my first question for you is, how's peer review coming for this thing?
Yeah, it's going well. It's definitely a big process to make sure that there's no errors in what I'm submitting. It's funny. Recently, a ransomware group actually made the mistake of posting some samples of their data that they collected, and they had to actually issue an apology to
certain people.
Right, exactly. Certain.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't want to get on that hit list or any hit list. So.
Right, exactly. So that's why making sure that your samples are proper, and that that's kind of one of the super important where you're dealing with this kind of information and this kind of pointing fingers at people and saying this is what you've done and this is your you better come proper is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So let's take a step back real quick, because while we're starting to follow you a little bit more deeply and we're starting to understand who you are, introduce yourself and what you are doing to the audience, please.
Sure. My name is Jonathan Scott. I am a security engineer, phone hacker, cloud hacker, and a human rights defender. And I work with several human rights groups around the world to teach forensics and ethical security hacking, offensive and defensive techniques, so that we can protect ourselves from malware, spyware, and any other malicious actions. That's what I do.
When you started doing this type of work and you got into what brought Pegasus on your radar is like, I need to go after this.
Right. So, sorry, I think I was getting a phone call. Sorry about that. So let me turn off this phone. One of the things that I had been doing was, so I've been in the hacking space for now about 13 years, and phone hacking was phone hacking, IoT, cloud hacking, where these are my specialties. I got a master's in computer science, and working on my doctorate currently. And so I started. I actually did some big work for some big names like GameStop, Verizon, AT&T, and so it all essentially for years, for about 8 years, I was actually contracted to create backdoors into phones, backdoors into systems, and over time, my ethos changed, and I realized actually what I was doing. I realized that I was selling exploits and contributing to the issues out in the world, right? And these things are being sold as features, right? So create me a backdoor, Verizon said, to break into every Samsung, Verizon phone in the world for a feature, just to process devices quickly and resell them quickly. This is what I had been doing. I sold the technology that I invented to publicly traded companies, and it was so again, my ethos changed. My mission in life, I suppose you can say. And so when I knew Pegasus was out, I started doing a lot of research, and then finally, when the samples came out, the Pegasus samples came out, VX Underground had actually posted some samples, and I said, "This is my time to actually truly get involved with this, with Pegasus." I heard about Pegasus before, but I wasn't able to actually get any samples to actually show what was really happening inside of these devices. So I did actually decompile and recompile these the samples, the spyware samples, and it's on GitHub, and I believe it's the only repository in the world actually that has samples that you can install and for research, right? You can it's fully decompiled so that you can actually see the Java and all of the you can do full traces on the spyware. It is a little bit older, but it still gives us a really good base of how all this actually interacts with the devices and functions. So that was kind of my jump point to get into the, to finally get into the Pegasus spyware project, because, I combined my knowledge of cell phone exploitation, and along with, creating creating exploits. So I kind of knew where to look for things too. So that helped me a lot.
How long did it take you to build the product?
To build the products for Verizon?
No, sorry, your tool for Pegasus detection.
Oh, yes.
Is there a name for it?
Yeah. So Pegasus ID is kind of like the second version. It's or the first round, right? So Pegasus ID took a few months, actually about 3 months, to create. So the base of this, I had already started creating, in a previous project, but it took about 3 months to create based off of the samples that I had, acquired. And yes, not too long. So I had my own samples that I pulled. And so these are like 9 gigs worth of samples that I pulled from devices that I had purchased from all around the world. And then when VX Underground came out, then I was able to use those samples to verify, and then finally create the tool, which took a couple more months, and then, off to validation. So yeah, it took a little while, but yes, this Pegasus ID is the identification of the spyware to begin with. And then the next piece will be the remediation, right? So how do we, remove it, right? First step is always identify, and then making sure that this project is open to the public. Then they can contribute to the identification part while the other project is launching for the remediation.
So Eric and I are both users of Crowdstrike, as we've mentioned on here a couple times, not in this episode, but in prior episodes. And they have a product called Crowdstrike Mobile, which has a dashboard that helps to identify Pegasus. And we had one of their personnel on to discuss Pegasus over the summer, when it was a hot topic for me, at least. And their detection seems to be looking for known C2 servers.
Sure.
Which I'm sure everyone in this room knows, and hopefully everyone who's listening understands. You can put up a whole new C2 infrastructure very quickly, and it mitigates any previous detections without giving away your secret sauce, because I don't think you should or would want to put exactly how it works out there for evasion techniques. But how is what you've built different than the Crowdstrike just looking for those known C2 servers?
Right. So I have developed a proprietary methodology that's going to be out into the public. So we're going down to the chipset level is where where I'm starting. So I don't know are you getting any feedback, or is it just me?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Oh, we're good.
Okay. So getting down to the chipset level is where I'm starting. So I can pull 5,000 plus data points for every iPhone 6 and higher, and from iOS 9.0 and higher. And so this is something that I've been prepping everyone for, doing live videos, actually showing, specific techniques on how to actually extract these data points, but not how to execute them yet. Right. So this is a big deal. So here's how we pull it. And you can manually pull this information, right? These specific data points out, but actually analyzing them and then doing, automating this process is something that I've been working with a small team in the background to make sure that, help me make sure that getting this out to the public properly, make sure that you can do it too. Are you going to be available to help teach the public if needed? And so I have a small team of two other individuals that have been working in a private repository with me to make sure that this is out properly, right? And that we can decode the information properly and be able to actually prove out what we're seeing. So a lot of these issues that let's say companies are coming across are, it's hard for them to validate, right? And stay, they're kind of people are just kind of guessing at it, right? But what I'm implementing what I call a birth certificate. And so that birth certificate is we know what processes are actually supposed to be running. We know which daemons are supposed to be running in the background, according to the original, security policy, or excuse me, a security white paper that's put out by Apple every year. And so we know which kernel processes are supposed to be running, and now we check right against the birth certificate on what's actually happening, and the original. So, but from there we can actually pull out even very specific points at which either the kernel, failed, or the kernel had an error, had a panic, and then we can compare it to actually what's happening now. Was there an injection, right? Did that kernel panic cause an injection? And then we can truly see, granular, super granular. I did one of my lives and I actually pulled all 5,000. It was actually almost 6,000 data points live. And it took about 30 minutes. So this is very intense, very detailed, to pull from a device, but it is, yeah, go ahead.
So when the Pegasus is actually launched from, granted, I'm a little bit in your space, but nothing to the fine granularity that you are. So hats off to you for being able to do this. Cause I look at some of the stuff and I'm like, deer in the headlight type of stuff. Right. So, from my understanding, Pegasus is of course launched from, Bitly or some URL shortener, but when it's launched, it causes a kernel crash of one or two of the iPhone modules. And it just simply reboots those modules. It doesn't force the whole iPhone to reboot, but just two or three or one or two of the actual kernels to actually get restarted. And that injects, like in my world for, a pen tester, blue team or whatever, that injects an RCE that then starts going in and dropping that whole Pegasus. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, it's pretty close, right? Definitely, pretty close. But there's a couple of ways that the payload can be dropped in, right? So we have, ways via SMS. We have, ways with the hardwire that we've detected. We do have ways through the SIM card. Actually, the SIM card itself is actually was just revealed, finally, thankfully, today by in the AP. And so this is it's a big thing to finally have this kind of proof that yes, the SIM cards are vulnerable, right? The SIM cards actually, they're written, there's an operating system on these SIM cards, and it's written in Java. And this is a really big issue that people don't understand. Is
Java is the most secure thing out there.
Absolutely.
I say this with absolute sarcasm. Whoever's
absolutely, yes, exactly. It's interesting because people may think that it's just. I don't really know what people think. Honestly, I don't know if I've even asked anyone what they think. SIM cards written in, but it is written. It's Java. How everything's coded for them. So. Yeah,
interesting because I honestly thought that the SIM card was just an ASCII, line code for machine to machine communication. I didn't really think that there was actual JavaScript code on a SIM card. It's interesting.
I didn't know there was JavaScript on there, but I do remember an article within the last 5 years, give or take, that intelligence agencies had compromised one of these, or the leading SIM card manufacturer. So to me, that would make me think there was enough code on there to manipulate to get their backdoor access, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah. The SIM cards have been compromised for quite some time, actually. And the communicate, so they have this, they have, access to, the kernel, they have access to the software layer. And so this is a big deal, right? And I've exploited SIM card vulnerabilities many times in Samsung devices, actually. And it's very interesting that, what happens when you plug in, let's say you have an unlocked Samsung device, meaning no network lock on it. And we plug in, let's just take, one of the latest Samsung phones, and we put in a Verizon SIM card as our primary SIM card that we're going to be using every day. Now, let's just say we decide, which doesn't happen much, this next part doesn't happen much, but we decide that we want to actually change network carriers. So we're going to pop out that SIM card and we're going to put in an AT&T SIM card. What you're going to notice is that a screen, it says, well, okay, now restart your phone. And you're going to notice a blue screen come up with a SIM card on it. And it's going to be downloading the SIM card data to that device. Now, what happens is there's specific commands, like let's just take AT commands, right? Some Haze commands, modem commands that can be sent. So Verizon has specific commands that can be sent through the modem because of those binaries that are downloaded from the SIM card. And AT&T has specific binaries that can be executed. And so now, again, what I'm trying to say is these SIM cards have specific properties in them that enumerate something, on the device itself, or install binaries on the device, based on who the network carrier is.
I have a question for you. And one of the things that really bothered me about Pegasus was what some people have deemed or termed touchless malware. And I could be getting that piece wrong. But
zero click. Yeah.
In the past, it's my understanding you had to open the text message, so to speak, tap a link, you go somewhere, and you get Pegasus injected. And over the summer, they were talking about the zero click, where feasibly you just get a text message and it's over for you at that point.
Yeah. So this has been proven, right? This zero click, and Apple actually patched this issue in iOS 14.8. Well, the issue is that they didn't actually patch it, right? I mean, they did their best to close some sort of a gap, but there is still that gap that's open. Clearly, as we've been seeing throughout the world, that people are still being infected. Big, human rights activists are being targeted, and this is clearly after the known patch. But yes, you're right. You can send this text message, and because of the vulnerability that exists, with the operating system, and not just Apple, right? We're talking to Android as well, right?
Sorry, I'm just an Apple user, so in my
me too.
There's no other phone. Everything else,
I guess,
paperweights. So
I'm with you. I always put that out there, but I'm an Apple user, but I'm fascinated really by Androids because of how how open it is and like the customization. But anyways, I'm with you on it. Yeah, Apple, pretty much everything that I have.
Well, if I could divert a little, because I actually posted this in one of our private things, and you probably haven't had a chance to see this yet, Jonathan. So I'm putting you a little bit on the spot, and I don't mean to by any means. But there was a article that was released over the weekend, how they set up a workbench to actually start tracking these SIM devices and using the actual cables, and seeing what that communication is from the SIM card, using Wireshark to, when you're doing your type of tests of data points and, the forensics on these SIMs, is this type of setup the same that you would actually type of setup for some of your analytics, or?
Yeah, sure. Definitely, but definitely similar, right? But, I'll use a logical analyzer. So I'll actually solder points onto the actual SIM card itself, right? So each one of the parts of the SIM card actually has like little quadrants on them, right? Mm-hmm. And they all, correlate to a specific process, right? So that's something to keep in mind. And, but yeah, so that is, it's similar, but yeah, I use a logical analyzer to, analyze everything in that sense. But there's a lot of different tools, right? A lot of different tools to use. But it's pretty close. I actually saw someone actually in my team sent me a similar article that was published, I guess, yesterday. That's really similar to what you posted. But posted on medium.com. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see how they were going through it. This really lines up a little bit, nowhere to the level that you're doing, but how predictive, I guess, analytics that they're doing on SNMS and MSMS for planning and things of that nature with the different carriers. So it's, I don't know, it was really fascinating when we started to talk about this and, how you're going a lot deeper than this, but doing what you're doing. So
yeah, I think, a lot of it just really, it comes down to the chipset manufacturers and kind of these back doors that are actually built into these devices.
That doesn't happen. That's like the placebo power button I mentioned the other day.
It's really funny because I reported a vulnerability to LG, and actually it was I believe 34 0 days that I sent to LG. And
wow.
and their response was, and I'm actually hopefully going to post this after my legal team actually looks at everything. But the response was, paraphrase, there's nothing we can actually do about this. And I know LGs are not actually in production anymore, right? So, but it doesn't take them off the hook to patch their systems. But the level of effort that it would take to actually patch these systems is enough for them to say there's literally nothing we can do about it, from their own words. But there's a back door that I discovered in all of these. I mean, we're talking about like LGs from 11 years ago to the most current LG device, mobile device out there, right? They all have an engineering back door built into their, built into their phones. This is specific to LG themselves. So it doesn't matter if you had a secured, secured partition, right? Secured, memory, passcode lock on the device. It does not matter at all. Just consider it gone, because this backdoor exists that lets you get into the whole thing. And it's all based off of the chipset manufacturers partnering with the OEMs.
So that actually raises a good question that I'm not sure if you're able to comment or not, but when we're doing a lot of MFA implementations for our clients, we're able to say, look, unless a mobile drive or the mobile device, has a drive that is encrypted, do not allow MFA. With some of this, without you saying anybody particularly, but with what you're seeing and what you're doing, is drive encryption not far enough these days now?
Just to qualify this, Jonathan, he's talking about us using something like Duo, where there's Duo device health to say if a device is in this range of states, it's okay to be used. If it's not, then you can't receive and authorize push notifications or Duo on this device.
Gotcha. So essentially like an MDM kind of system.
Something like it. So for, with iOS, it'll say, okay, is the phone jailbroken? Does the policy allow the use of jailbroken phone? Is it up to date with the most recent iOS software based on the policy, whether it's N-1, 2, or what have you? It's very basic stuff, and obviously encryption.
Sure. Yeah. We would hope that the secure enclave would help with that, right? We would hope.
I've never seen the secure enclave. I've just read about it, and I tend to not believe 99.9% of what I read.
Yeah. So containerizing your data when it's take an iOS device, right? That's the goal, right? Let's containerize this data and then encrypt this data, and then make sure that the secure enclave actually manages the security of this information. Unfortunately, right? So in 2020. There was an article that came out that specifically stated that the secure enclave could be breached, and actually it was funny. There was I actually posted in my Twitter feed yesterday about this because someone actually had raised this question. It's very interesting that you say this, and I pointed them to this exact post that I'm speaking about. But to answer your question, I'd still do it. The skill set level that it takes to actually break this type of, either encryption and security is quite high. I don't want to, spread any fear, doubt, uncertainty, but these systems are, they're meant to protect us. Of course, they are always going to be broken. It doesn't matter what you put in place, but for the general public, these, I feel like they're good enough to protect that information. There's always the chance, but I would still use it. Again, that skill set level is quite high. Even if you're talking about state actors, right? That infections with malware or spyware, generally these are targeted attacks, and so this is something to actually keep in mind, that this is, this doesn't live on everybody's phone in the entire world. That's too much. It's not impossible to manage, right? Especially with more quantum computing coming out, but this, I don't want people to be afraid of using their cell phones. It's not the point of this. Just bring awareness of what's actually out there.
Yeah, man, let's just be real. If man made it, man can break it.
100%.
Play simple, so
100%.
One thing I want to go back to Pegasus ID, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And zero click.
Yeah.
And it's multiple parts of this question. Is or will there be a time when Pegasus ID is able to identify how Pegasus was injected into the device?
Yes. Yeah.
And if you don't want to talk about it,
that smirk.
Yeah.
See this?
No.
It's like, maybe you want something close to the vest. So let me shut up.
No, not at all. Look, so this is the thing. I do plan on tracing back its origins, right? That's the goal. There's a lot of, I can tell you this much, right? So if you go into my GitHub repository and you actually install some of the samples of Pegasus.
Dude, I'm an idiot. That's Eric's wheelhouse.
Then Eric, if you go and install any of the APKs that I posted, what's going to be very interesting to you is and maybe to a lot of people, is that when you open up these APKs, they're written in Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of them is written in Chinese. Now, we have seen malware and spyware kind of as a decoy, right? Written in different languages by different state actors. This is something that happens, right?
That was good. My question, if it was a tactical move for that, yeah.
Right. But the other thing too is that we see that these, let's say, whoever created this, it's proper Chinese though. That's the thing. So after having it analyzed, there was a native speaker, a native, so this is kind of something to think about, right? Not
confidence level. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. After having professionals analyze this, several, absolutely 100%. But again, these kinds of things are how we're tracing this back. What are the origins? Now, there's a lot of documentations, especially through, that have been submitted through my nonprofit organization. So I run a nonprofit organization that accepts information about spyware, and so hacktree.org is my nonprofit organization, and then the offset of hacktree.org is spyware.wiki, and so spyware.wiki is a place where you can submit spyware information, and then of course we validate everything to make sure that it's proper. But it's dedicated specifically to information about spyware around the world. If you're actually creating it, are you a creator? Do you know anything about it? Do you know origins? Again, this is kind of a lot of places where we're getting a lot of information from to validate that origin. To answer your question, yeah.
Well, the reason I ask is because of the nature of zero click. Whoever wants to install Pegasus on target devices could feasibly just compromise a website, and you load that website on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You have Pegasus in play, and now you're not just targeting a few people. This is mass surveillance.
Sure.
And I can't believe that Pegasus is only selling to their public or pseudo-public customer list with how many places it's actually been found by, from what you're saying. And then I followed, is it Citizen Lab in Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's several OTX feeds around public sites that have Pegasus and be able to deploy it. So what you're saying, Shiva, is a very real world scenario.
I mean, can you imagine just getting into something like, I don't know, bleepingcomputer.com with all the ads on there and everything that's going to be loaded?
Yeah.
It's an easy vector.
Absolutely. I put out a proof of concept recently that I submitted to Apple, and Apple said this isn't a vulnerability. It's interesting. Those are awesome, right? And so I resubmitted it for further evaluation because, so if you go to 0hak.com, that's my personal site, do it on your phone, right? So this is not going to inject anything. It's not going to be crazy, but
I'll put that then.
So says the hacker.
Right, exactly. So 0hak.com/POC. And what this is going to do is you're going to see it. You're going to see a screen that says you want to play a game, and there's going to be a link right on top. If you tap it, what's going to happen is it's just going to take you automatically to your photos. No authentication, right? No pop up coming up saying, "Do you want to open your photos?"
I want to do this. I just don't want to do it from my phone.
No. Look, I'm not logging in. I promise you. It's super ethical, right? It's not going to trace, log anything.
Eric, you go first.
Yeah, but 0hak.com/POC. And
I'm ordering a separate iPhone right now.
Yeah. So generally, if you're going to open up your photos, right, it's going to say, "Would you like to open up the photos?" It's going to give you a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I submitted this to Apple, I said, "Look, what I'm doing is I'm bypassing access controls." Right now, the URL schema is photos://. If you put that in your Safari, then it will come up and say, "Should I open your photos?" But what I'm doing is a photos redirect. So photos-redirect://, and then injecting whatever the hell I want to at the end, right? Which can be a callback. And so it's bypassing those access controls and automatically opening up your photos. And they said this is intended behavior.
Eric is happy here because he does this. So I'm an MSP right now. I'm in the MSP space. I'm slightly smarter than MSP, so take that for what it is. But Eric does this to vendors in the MSP space on almost a daily basis. Open redirects. They all ignore him.
Yeah.
He shows them how it could be malicious, and they're just like, we don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not good, especially on an iPhone that's going to literally bring up. The other portion is this: if you actually delete your Photos app, like you actually remove it, but then you go to my site and you tap on the link for the POC, it's going to bring up your photos.
Oh, the app is just a GUI.
Right.
To where you want to go, right? The data is still there, the underlying subsystems, because as far as I am aware of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it's baked into iOS.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely. As someone, there's a security researcher that I like to have, check my work, and he said one time, if you're trying to figure out if your wife's up to them tricks, this is a good POC to use, right? It's funny because it's like if she's like deleting her photos photos app, that's all right. Just go to zerohack.com/POC and you bring those photos right back up, and that's it's not a vulnerability though. It's it's a feature.
Yep.
So what's going to be the deployment method for Pegasus ID?
Yeah. So, it will be it'll start off as a Mac application. And then hopefully, some Windows engineers will pick it up and, and build an executable for Windows. And then, we're going to, since it'll be open source, hopefully we'll have, an iOS application and then a Google Play application available, but it's starting off as a Mac application, a GUI, a Mac GUI. Not going to be pretty. I'm not a designer, right? Yeah, but
it's somebody on Fiverr. They're all trustworthy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'll let him do that. Yeah. But yes, that's going to, and of course you have full command line options as well, currently. But just for the general public right now, click on this button, plug your phone in, and, then it'll identify everything, give it some time, and it'll spit back your results.
So it's just dumping the contents of the phone into the app, into your application, your Mac application.
Right. Locally. Right.
Right.
So don't hold any logs, nothing, none of that. Definitely. For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you familiar with Signal, the text messaging app?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you feel about Signal and Moxie? Good, bad, undecided? I'll tell you why I ask, just because I don't want to put you in any bad position.
No, it's okay.
Have you thought about collaborating with them? Because they've been doing some pretty interesting stuff with Celebrite and, some of the other security tools in the space.
Yeah. I think they think that they're on the right track as far as Signal goes. There's some holes, right? But there's always going to be holes. In the forensic space, I am collaborating with quite a few groups around the world. I've actually communicated with Celebrite, directly. The head of R&D. Actually, Gray Shift called me and offered me, or not offered me a position, but asked to see.
They offered to buy your soul.
Probably, yeah. But they said I had to update my resume, which was really interesting. And but they called me and asked me to update my resume. That was really
they just want to know everything you give them without much effort on their part.
Right. But
to deconstruct you at some point.
Yeah, you called me. Yeah, but but anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
No, the reason I asked specifically about Signal is because I read 6 months, maybe a year ago, they found a Celebrite device laying around on the ground, and they were able to upload their own malware that was hidden within a test app they built. And, there's this whole thing about the security or lack thereof of the Celebrite devices. So I was just curious, if, because of what you're doing, if there was a synergy there with them, or I guess you already said with other people.
Yeah, definitely with some other forensics firms, and nothing against Celebrate. Like I said, I have a good relationship with them, actually, a really good relationship with them, and and of course Gray Shift, and nothing against them. I just don't have a relationship like I do with Celebrite. But hopefully, someone was actually going to introduce me to the CEO of Signal recently. It hasn't happened, but I just
on
get him
Twitter. If you ping him and say, "This is what I'm doing," he would probably get back to you.
I think I'll do that. I'll do it. Okay, let's do it.
I mean, he doesn't know me from a hole in the walls. I'm like, why is this idiot messaging me? But
hey, I'll do it too. That way, Jonathan could be between two.
Okay, whoever's listening to this, today is November 8th. This comes out next week on November 15th. Mm-hmm. Once you hear this episode, go to Moxie Marlin Spike's Twitter and say, hit up Jonathan Scott about Pegasus ID now. Mm-hmm. And you'll get all three people that.
Awesome. Let's do it.
I do wonder, Jonathan, that what are you getting any sort of help, any funding from somebody for your efforts? Because I mean, I'm in your space, like I said, to some degree. Now I'm wanting to go start ordering some more hardware and start cracking some phones. Because of what I've learned today, just like, ooh, this is a new stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know, HackerOne, BugCrowd, all those, they got, some hardware freaks out there that are just heavy in that space. And I know that's a much needed space, but, I know it takes a lot to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Are you having help fund this? Do you need help? Because I mean, what you're doing is awesome. And I think there needs to be a way.
Yeah. No, I'm not getting any funding right now, but, I hopefully maybe in the future, I'll ask. I guess I'm just not not there yet. I want to kind of prove myself, I suppose, before I start asking for anything. And I know I've proved myself in a sense, right? But I don't know. I guess because of the kind of work that I was doing before, it kind of still have this.
You're suffering from imposter syndrome right now.
Well, no, maybe not that, but I have to kind of forgive myself for like the kind of technology that I was creating before, right? Like I was saying,
so
yeah.
And I say this with experience from this podcast, not that what you do and what we do are the same. As I said, yours is a public service, and I think it needs to be done. On my side, I just think everyone needs to listen to us, but what do I know? I think it's about controlling your own destiny, right? You don't want to take money and then have to be beholden to someone or something that tells you how and what to do, which is the reason I make the parody with Eric and I. We've been reticent to take on sponsors and advertisers because it goes from us being able to do and ask whatever we want, be responsible for our own thoughts and actions, to now having to answer to someone who may not have that vision we have. Even if I don't know if we have a vision, but it won't be our thing anymore.
Yeah, that's good. I agree with you on that. That does take a big enjoyment out, right, of everything. And then, am I doing this for the right reasons, or am I doing this for, because I have to please the people that have invested, right?
Right.
And again, this is more like it's kind of like it's a moral thing, right? Not ethical thing. Ethics are business, morals are personal, right? But wherever I am in my life right now, I don't know if I'm ready for that, right? I don't know if I'm ready to take on that.
Well, at least you understand that it's your choice, right?
For sure.
Let's do it as a more personal thing, because me and Shiva both have in our links, a buy me a coffee.
Sure.
And yet, of course, you got where people can help support you. You see that on GitHub all the time, right? Help support my PowerShell, help support my efforts by doing that, something like that, or the whole crowdfunding, go
Patreon or whatever.
Yeah. So you're not beholden to a CrowdStrike or Recorded Futures or name company here. You've got people like us helping support you.
Imagine you got an investment from NSO Group and didn't know until it was too late.
Oh, right.
That would suck, right?
No, it's like, I do have in the Twitter, I do have a Patreon that's like buy me some Red Bulls, right? But I don't promote it. I don't promote any of that. It usually till today.
Doing it today.
Right.
You're not promoting it. We will.
Right. Right.
And the reason we're going down this line of questioning with you is because it costs money to live. And if you keep doing really good stuff, you need to have some type of income. So
you're doing cool stuff, man. There's a bunch of people out there, just as well as I do. There's a bunch of crappy people out there that are, out.
I saw a Twitter bottom dollar over the weekend. Oh, I don't want to call it Twitter, but
it was interesting. Yeah,
I was laughing. Dude, you made my weekend so entertaining, and I say that with some love. Like, it was fun.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, so these people that are quite have a big followings and public figures. It's funny when you call them out on something, they just go crazy, right? We had several big wars. I'd say they're wars for sure. Someone had specifically said, hey, I work for a Fortune 100 company and I don't know how to code. I've never popped a shell.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. I've never, I don't know what a container is, like, and they're like literally listing all the things and they're like, but you'll be okay because I rely on subject matter experts and my coworkers. And I'm like, oh God, what in the hell? Like, you're getting paid $160 something thousand and you don't know any of this.
You don't need to know all of it, but you should at least know most of it or some of all of it, so you can know who the subject matter experts are and know when to bring them in, right? Like, I get that a C-level is like a movie director, but you got to know what you're doing.
100%. I'm with you. I think, and the other issue that I was having was there are people that actually know how to write code and are actually having this security architect position, right? So because security architecture, as it pertains to applications, you have to actually do testing. You have to do. You literally have to write scripts for automation, right? These are things that are actually required to the extent that even Bloomberg posted a position specifically, actually like last month, that said for a security application architect, you have to know all of these programming languages so you can actually validate your products. But to say, and there's people that are actually doing these things, and to publicly say you don't have to know any of it and you'll still get by really devalues who they are, what they're.
It devalues us, like as IT practitioners in whatever our space is. Like,
Yes.
To me, your lane is really highly technical shit stuff. Eric, he's pen testing and incident response. Me, I'm just the IT guy, right? I'll put you in a position where you're going to be better off than not. Eric's going to come in, clean up the mess. God forbid it happens. And you're the guy that's going to be like, let's not do this at all because it's a shit product, for lack of better words. But
sure.
I have a question for you. It's a little bit of a rabbit hole. Are you familiar with Azure Functions?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Here we go, ladies.
Oh, my.
My beer.
Oh, my. Okay. All right. Go for it.
I have seen a proliferation of people building platforms into Azure Functions, and they're using a fail fast mentality feature-wise. What I'm not seeing, and by seeing in the application or in the documentation, is the security layer added into. It's almost as though they believe that it's an Azure function in the cloud, so it is inherently secure.
Oh, wow.
How do you feel about that statement that I made?
Oh, my God.
I told you it's a rabbit hole.
Okay. All right. So let's just say we're Power Apps, maybe. Actually, honestly, we can use any Azure service in this sense, right?
Okay.
Right. So to think that Azure has your back, right, and that you don't have to consider security at all, I'm mind blown by this, right? Because so I actually submitted 8 vulnerabilities to Microsoft, specifically pertaining to Azure services and programs. I mean, truly specific issues that you're talking about right now. By leaving security in their hands, what happened is I was able to actually enumerate 400,000 students, right, from my university that I was attending, and I mean, I guess to say, look, I have a lot of issues with that. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, the reason I ask this is because more and more people are developing, right? And I think Azure Functions has given the somewhat better than average person the ability to build something that, hopefully is intended to help people.
Sure.
But the problem I have with it is that they're not putting any thought into security outside of what they believe Azure Functions is going to give them.
Yeah, that is the problem. That's definitely a problem. I mean, if you even look at the API and the exposure that the API actually, it's a mess, right? Like if it's in my GitHub repository, I guess is the best way I can say it. If you look in the GitHub repository under the Microsoft Azure data leak, you'll see exactly what you're talking about, right? That I've written about it specifically on this issue. It's horrible, right? It's exploitable. People will say, well, this is not our responsibility. This is not Microsoft's responsibility. Like there has to be, there has to be some level of accountability, right? So it's like this, if more and more people start, deploying these applications without security enabled, and more of these applications are being, breached or there's a data leak because of it, right? We have to kind of, I believe we have to kind of roll back and say, all right, Microsoft, there has to be some sort of a policy or some sort of a security revision that implements good security practices, because if people are not going to do it, then you need to do it for them, right? and so this is where my head's at in that sense. And I believe that the more and more that we see, these, applications for the people, right, they're breached and leaked and data, everywhere. I believe that there has to be a change,
And that's the issue I have because, I don't know how familiar you are with the MSP space, managed services providers.
No, not too bad.
Bunch of children running businesses is the best way I can explain this.
Okay.
But
it makes sense.
You take a lot of technicians who have 20-year-old knowledge and want to continue building infrastructure for the SMB and small enterprise with that mentality, not really taking into consideration the threat vectors of today, or even the techniques of mitigation or tools you can use to help mitigate. Sure. And that's the MSP space. And we use something called an RMM, which is a remote monitoring and management platform. Kaseya, you may have heard of that.
It sounds a little familiar, yeah.
So you install an agent on a computer, it calls back home to a C2 server, and you can run anything you want. Like, if you can dream it, you can send it out.
Yeah, it's a paid version of a C2 server.
Okay, I understand.
These platforms are 20, 30 years old with no security built in.
Or very little.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And
yeah,
the reason I bring this up is because to get away from that, people have been moving to putting applications into Azure Functions.
Sure.
And that's where I thought of, hey, where's the security layer in this? Because if you're just using Azure, then a security breach is agnostic to what the product you're building is. It's a matter of just breaching that Azure function system.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's the issue I have.
Yeah.
See here, if I can, let's take a little bit of higher level. Okay.
Sure.
So let's say I'm a web developer. Dear God, thankfully to everybody, I am not.
Can you handle DNS?
I can handle DNS, so I'm at least better than that. So let's say we're doing a web server, we're doing .NET, we're doing whatever. I build something that is inherently insecure. I have, like Jonathan said, a open redirect that will allow me to open up some other application or whatever. Is that now a .NET issue because it was allowed to be done? Or is it my issue because I coded it that way?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really the thing is, do you go back to Microsoft for IIS server misconfigurations? No. It's the same thing with the Azure, right? So Azure or Google Firebase or any of these, containers and open repos and whatever, we'll go on for a million years. I think Microsoft has put a platform out there for everybody to use. I still think it's on the technologist to properly secure their crowd and audit what they're building. And that's really what the big thing is. Cause, you probably see this as well as I do, but the amount of times that I will look at source code of an application and see so many third-party GitHub repos referenced in an application. And then I'm like, okay, let's rip this thing apart. Okay, this was by Joe Mama version 1.6.8 that was released 3 years ago. And he's got 7 or 8 different updates because of security issues. I'm like,
that's the problem you're going to have with any kind of dependency-based system, right? Unless you're willing to code it all for yourself or do code review for yourself, you're going to run into that.
But this is a good issue that you're raising. Again, another GitHub repo that I have up there is a so in iOS 15.0.2, I found
affects us,
right? Yeah, I found a code comment. I unpacked the DMG that was inside of the IPSW. And then I found a code comment that was calling back to ISO.org, and it was a URL actually, and a URL calling back to ISO.org. Well, once I accessed that URL, I was kind of just going through and what am I here? This was inside of a code comment. What is this? What's Apple calling back? So they're looking for tables. So it was US equals United States, CA equals Canada, that kind of a country code table from ISO.org. Now, the issue is, well, it exposed 10,000 plus emails, usernames, first names, and last names from ISO.org customers around the world. And it's still an active leak right now. Like to this day, I've reported it to Apple twice. I've reported it to ISO.org twice. There's media been written about this. Actually, they validated that they can actually see this information. They posted how many emails that they can actually enumerate, right? We're talking about like this is a breach and a leak based off of open source, based off of, really poor QA or no QA done from an open source, project that had been implemented into Apple, for the past, 9 revisions or more, right? It just commented in, I'm sorry, since 2009, no one's ever checked this code comment at all. But what's happening is this URL actually bypasses the paywall for ISO.org.
Mm-hmm.
So ISO, is it on ISO.org? Well, no, because ISO.org actually has a paywall, and they didn't actually write this open source code. It may have been in this way, this URL back, before 2009 or around there. But since then they said, hey, you got to pay for this information. You can't be backdooring this information. But of course, Apple is backdooring this information. And so they opened up a hole in ISO.org that exposed currently to this date right now, 10,000 plus customers. And no one's fixed it. Yeah.
That really reminds me of what was released not too long ago, where the Microsoft Activator URL, or the activation process for Microsoft Office, and I think the OS as well, if it didn't see the full URL for the Microsoft 365 tenant, it was going to an unregistered URL that thankfully a researcher found it, activate or registered that domain. It was collecting, plain text usernames and passwords that were trying to authenticate against 365 tenancies.
Wow.
Yeah, but how long was that going on before it was found? That's what I'm afraid of, right? I'm worried about 0 days before they get labeled a 0 day.
Yeah.
Quote unquote no day. Or
exactly.
Yeah, and end day. Yeah, the end day. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those are real. This is real stuff. I mean, it's interesting in the InfoSec community. Unless you can actually take someone down and prove it in front of 8 people, it's not real. It's fake. It's a phony, right? But there's a lot of vulnerabilities out there that are really dangerous. To the extent that you don't want to actually show the entire proof of concept to the public, right? So that's the thing. Show part of what you can do, and if you can understand that part is really dangerous, just to get your point across, so that the proper people can actually see and listen.
Yep.
That's the whole thing about it, right? Still staying ethical about it. Yeah, I mean, I did a live yesterday or early this morning. I opened up a HomePod Mini live, and I did a data dump from the HomePod Mini. And so I set up the HomePod Mini with my iPhone that I had iCloud on. And then I used another phone that did not have an iCloud, but I installed a developer certificate, a developer profile on that extra phone that would have extended logging. The information that I was able to grab just by being close to that Apple HomePod Mini was enough for me to actually end the live, because I was crossing that line again of ethical disclosure. Literally ended the live, cut it off and said, I cannot go further and show you any more of the data that's actually been gathered, because you're going to actually go out and do this, so, and this is the reality of what's this phone had never been paired with this HomePod. It didn't, this phone had never had any authentication. All it had was a developer profile that was, given by Apple to install. it's extended logging that you can get,
Yep.
It's crazy. It's just too much, right?
A lot of it is security after authentication.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the reason I say it like that is because no one really practices zero trust. It's like,
Yes.
once you're authenticated, let's open the floodgates. And that's what it is with that developer certificate. It's like, hey, he's using this for good things. Let's open the tab.
Gosh, you bring up an amazing point. I call it true trust vulnerabilities. True trust vulnerabilities. Yeah, kinds of. Yeah, for sure. Please. So I teach this. Actually, a lot of people. This is real, right? We've put too much trust in our devices, right? Well, let's say we plug in our and one of the proof of concepts that I did recently that I got a lot of flack from about like 8 people, of course, right? But is I have a phone plugged into have an iPhone plugged into my Mac, and what happens is you get a trust dialog that comes up. Okay, so I trust that. Now it says to put in the passcode. Fine, I put in the passcode and I trust it. Now, in the background of your Mac, let's just suppose you have Apple Configurator running. Okay, you got Apple Configurator running, which has the ability to actually wipe your device, do a backup, and restore. Okay, what I did was I actually created a malicious website that actually, I sent this malicious website to the phone that was hooked up to the computer through an airdrop, and I wiped the phone with its own trust. So I used the internal processes of the machine that it was actually hooked up to, and I wiped that phone without you ever knowing what happened. So because you are already trusted, that trust that you have with your computer allowed me to wipe your phone without your authentication, without your knowledge even. You can't stop it. And people were saying, oh, it's not a vulnerability because you were already trusted. Well, but wait.
That's
what?
privilege escalation.
It's
sure.
It's just a vulnerability of an existing system. Like, you're trusting your phone is a system.
And here's the issue, right? Is because I could send you an airdrop without, without any prompt of, do you want to accept this? Right? I mean, right in here lies the issue, is that we're just trusting everything, that we're accepting everything. And Apple actually put out a CVE in 2020 with the Apple TV that specifically said that there was a trust. There can be a misuse of trust vulnerability from an Apple, on an Apple TV and then remote host, and so these true trust vulnerabilities are real, and the more that we continue to trust these devices without further authentication, right? Multiple authentications, maybe not every time, but different forms of authentication that we need to really rethink, and especially when it comes to the metaverse, right? This is kind of where like we're just going to trust everything and then think, all right, we're good to go. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. So, these kinds of issues really are things that I'm raising, because it's not only just with Apple devices, it's with Androids, right? It's with, if I can have some sort of an access to your machine, any sort of access, I have full access to your device.
Consider single sign-on these days, or here's one of my biggest pet peeves. Not, single sign-on I get, let's have an IDP, let's figure out ways to centralize on that to protect everything. Okay, I see the argument, fine, whatever. Where I have a problem right now is passwordless authentication.
Okay, yeah.
And I want to qualify what that is, at least for me right now. That's just using the biometrics on your phone, logging in, there's an app or something tokenized on here that you inherently trust, because now you're doing you're doing no password, passwordless.
Right.
Well, and this is a question I brought up with a company that's selling passwordless authentication. Are you going to allow me to create a separate passcode from my phone that I have to enter to use this passwordless authentication? Or are you going to rely on the inherent Apple biometrics or Apple passcode? Because I don't know about you, but there are people in my life who know my passcode for my phone.
For sure.
Does that mean I want them to be able to use my phone to gain passwordless access into corporate things? Definitely
Sure.
not.
Right.
And that's my issue with passwordless right now. It's not really secure.
That's a really good point that you make. I mean, say, your significant other, spouse, whatever it may be. Generally they'll have access to your device, right? Passcode or whatnot. You're right. But should they be able to access your corporate information? No. Right. I mean, it's a violation of your corporate policy anyways. You're right. You're right. I mean, that's a really good point. We really need to rethink the way that we have access controls to our devices. I know, we've kind of forgotten all about the trusting portion of everything, So
I think we just have to not trust anything, quite honestly. And
yeah,
if we can get away from anything that saves a password or saves a login or tokenization of a login, that would make me sleep a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
I still won't sleep, but I'll sleep better. And
yeah,
the reason I brought up the passwordless authentication is there's a vendor out there, and their big claim to fame is that they're used by FBI.
Okay.
And when I brought this up, they said, well, we don't have a client big enough that asks for that. So if you want it, you have to pay for the dev time. And I'm like, you just told me the FBI is your client.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay, even with CJIS controls out there that govern how their data is accessed. You're telling me you're okay with their kid, their spouse, being able to get into CJIS control systems because they know the passcode for a phone?
Sure.
Or plausible, their spouses should know it. I'm like, okay. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going on a tangent here.
I'm with you.
We are in a, whether you want to call it a COVID world, a post-COVID world, whatever, the left, the right, the middle, up, down, whoever the hell wants to call what.
Sure.
If you go into a store and you're wearing a mask and you have to type in your passcode, how many cameras are picking up your passcode?
100%.
And that is targeting to get it to knock you over the head in the parking lot, put your passcode in, and you have access to CJIS control data or any proprietary or privileged information.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's my soapbox.
No, I'm with you. This, what's interesting is that, there's, if you look at your debit card and you have the chip on there, there is, if you actually cut out that chip, it's the exact same size as the SIM card that goes into your phone.
Yep.
No, don't tell me.
No, it is. Size, shape. I mean,
no, I think
you may just have to file one edge at a diagonal, I think.
Well, actually, I have a SIM card cutter. And so I'll take these and I'll do forensics on my own cards. People always cut the numbers on their cards when they discard them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. If you don't
shred everything.
You need the chip. Your PIN code. Your PIN code lives there.
Yeah.
And so if you're just cutting the numbers, who cares about the numbers? Your numbers don't work anymore. Give me that chip. Not only does it not, it's your location data too. All spending data. I mean, you'd be surprised what's on that chip.
The guys that are cutting the numbers are still fighting Frank Abagnale from the 1960s.
Right.
They're not fighting today's threats. And that's my problem with our industry, is that it's advancing quickly, making really good leaps and bounds. But why are we still dealing with Windows 7 computers? Why are we still dealing with Windows XP? Yeah, I get that it's legacy, which to me means you were too cheap to upgrade when you should have. So now you're stuck with shit. Sorry for the language, but
no, you know what? Here's what's funny. When you get a new debit card in, they have this super easy activation process, right? They're like, they say, go into the app and then validate, give me this CVV of the card. Okay, it's fine. But if I were to actually go into your mailbox and grab that card that's been sent to you, your card expired and it's not been stolen or anything, right? They send you a new card, so it's not expired. On that chip is your PIN already. Your PIN's already there. It's already there. And what? Nobody's doing the forensics on this. And it's like, wait a second, stop. Like, you literally have my PIN code inside of the mailbox. And so when someone takes this and they do the forensics on it, all they're doing is authenticating the CVV of the card to make
sure they have everything they need, right?
Right. I mean, because when you use that card, you don't worry, your PIN's the same. How many times do you hear that? Your PIN's the same. You didn't ever change. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
They used to do that. Like back in the early 2000s, when you got a new card, you had to go into the branch and have them put your PIN in.
Yes, I remember.
Now it's like,
Cargo, yeah.
it's like, hey, we already know your PIN, even though it's personal and we shouldn't know it, but it's on your card. So go spend, give us our 3% or 2% that in merchant fees. And I mean, they don't care. It's in their best interest to make it frictionless, which is why, and I'm hoping you don't tell me I'm wrong, but I could be. That's why I like Apple Pay. Supposedly it's a synthetic number that's created for each transaction linked back to the original, yada, yada, yada. But to me, using Apple Pay has always felt more secure than handing a waiter in a restaurant my card to go in a back room, skim it or swipe it on something, and who the hell knows.
Yeah, I agree with the concept. I agree, maybe not specifically the Apple Pay, but I understand, again, the high level of the complexity it takes to actually, infiltrate, Apple Pay. It is, it's quite high, right? But so I'm with you on that. So I use privacy.com.
Okay.
So privacy.com is an app, similar, right? Basically exactly what you're talking about. It's dynamically changes, every time on your purchase if you want, or you discard it after a week, whatever it may be. It's super, super awesome, super helpful. But what you're saying with Apple Pay is not like, I think my issue too is like not everyone takes Apple Pay. And so I find myself like not able to pay for everything with Apple Pay.
How dare they? It's 2021.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, so that's super important, which is, I would always recommend people, you use that, dynamic credit card, number. That is super, super important. If you're still getting, scammed by credit card, if people stealing your credit card number, you're doing something wrong these days, right?
They're already into your life.
Yeah. Like you really got an issue that you got to figure out. But yeah, if you're interested in like doing some research on your own cards, like you'll find it very interesting, especially the ones that have NFC on them, right? So like I mean that you can actually see like the radios inside if you actually look under, you put it under a really bright light at the bottom.
Old Microsoft, those old American Express blue cards, they were transparent, so you could see the antennas anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and these are ultra high frequency. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, you're talking about like you can trigger these from quite a distance, and I have, I've done a lot of experiments, and it's quite shocking. Yeah.
Yeah, Proxmark 3 with a good freaking base antennas or.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we old school radio throwbacks. This is super important for people to learn, right? I mean, look, I'm breaking into phones with Haze commands, with AT commands. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this is how I'm breaking into phones. I mean, this is still in there. Like, it's like the chipset manufacturers thought, hey, that's fine. Don't worry about upgrading that code base.
If for reference, Haze AT commands are from the old baud 36 or 36K modem. So when you heard those weird screeches and everything like that, and if you think back and you actually look at some of the pictures, AT was an actual light. Yeah,
dude. Most of the cybersecurity experts, in air quotes for those listening, weren't alive to hear those screeches.
Yeah, most of it. So I'm 35, and I'm barely was alive to hear the screeches. I remember some screeching. But I was on like 56K. I wasn't even on 28.8.
Yeah, he's lucky. He was born into 56.
I was born in
14.4 was my second modem.
Yes.
It was before 72, was it?
Yeah,
7200. Oh God, dude, I'm old.
Yeah. So, but I was on a bulletin board though. I got to tell you that I was on, sdf.lonestar.org. So.
ABS systems. Yeah. Just another lesson for you young whippersnappers. Bill, freaking Gore, whatever his first name is, he did not fucking build the internet. The BBS systems did.
Right.
Yes, he did. He said he did. And in this day and age, if you say you're a cybersecurity expert,
that's it.
You go on Clubhouse and you say the same thing, you must be. And
if you sell a course, then you're an expert even more. Apparently.
Don't even get me started. Selling courses, man.
Yes. I mean, I've got, I had a podcast with someone and we talked about this, and I personally don't sell courses. I mean, if you want to, that's fine, right? But there are some people that are just scamming the hell out of others, and that's the problem, right?
And by some, I think you mean, let's say 90% of them.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I will stand with you on that.
Or some ungodly high percentage of.
Yeah, John, you probably know of him, the cyber mentor. He was going on about it a couple weeks ago, where someone or 2 or 3 people were clearly ripping off his course.
It's funny because the cyber mentor and I kind of got into it this weekend.
I missed that one.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Good. Like, I was looking at his Twitter this weekend and I was cracking up.
Oh my God. So he blocked me. And because somehow, so some people reached out to me and said, "Hey, I need some help with some some issues they're having with the cyber mentor. Canceled his certificate." And he said, "Well, his certificate got canceled because he was cheating, and we found out through a Discord or something along those lines, and piracy and stuff." And I said, "Well, one, I don't promote piracy, right? I'm not going to promote anything illicit." And so I said, "Okay, well, what's actually happening here?" And so he responded and said, "Well, he was piracy, and I told him that if he apologized after a year, he could actually come back in." And I said, "Okay, all right, well, fair enough, I suppose." Actually, hold on, I got to change my headphones. I think my adapter's dying. Okay, sorry, that's better.
No worries.
So what happens is that I say, "All right, well, let's show the proof." So this student says, I wasn't cheating. I didn't even know that I had posted, this information in a torrent. It was just all in a file. I'm sorry. Okay, fine. But there was 2 incidents. One was the piracy. One was the cheating. Okay. So the student that got his certificate revoked was one that was accused of cheating. Right. And he was the only one with a certificate. And he said, I didn't pirate anything. I wasn't cheating either. So I try to talk to a cyber mentor, and he specifically says, "Hey, I don't want to talk to you about this." And myself and the XSS rat, Wes, tried to talk to him. And so we both kind of say, "Hey, let's talk about this, privately." One, we know the age of the students, right? So we don't want to expose them, first off, right? They're under age of 18, and just kind of putting them on blast in public, right? And especially, they're not American, they're Indian, their culture is different, right? There's a whole mess of things that have to be taken into consideration. Like, you're accusing someone who's saying, "I didn't actually cheat. You stole my certificate and my parents paid a lot of money for this." And he's publicly calling them out and saying, "You cheated, you're done. This is why you got," and I'm saying, "Hey, cool it, right? Just stop." So I start saying, "Hey, look, if you're going to be going this route and accusing people without showing any proof, right, then you're violating privacy, one, right? Because first, you're selling courses to underage students without consent of the parents." And he says, "If you get caught doing XYZ, then you're going to be subject to criminal prosecution. You're subject to, all kinds of things with the law." And, in the United States, these kinds of things require a guardian's, approval, a guardian's, authentication that you can actually do these things, because generally
you're binding a contract with a minor, which is
100%. And that's what I was trying to get the point across. I'm saying, look, you're actually gathering data, right? By going into a Discord, and, you're gathering data on a minor, whatever that conversation was, and you're asking another minor what the conversation was. And then you're making a decision based off of 2 minors actually giving you information. And then you're publicly saying, "You're a cheater, you're a liar, you're a stealer, you're a thief," he actually said to them. And so this was my issue, was you need to stop doing this. Ended up, he refunded both of the students, right? He refunded both of the students. He kicked them out of the program. One of them admitted to having, put some information up that was, could be considered piracy, right? And I don't support that. But the other one was not cheating at all, was refunded again. But anyways, my whole point was they reached out to me because, look, there is a privacy issue here. You cannot actually, as I said, right? So and I cite all my sources, I cite everything, and it actually stopped. The whole thing stopped after I said, look, you're doing all of these things with a minor's consent. I said, you can't just put up a website and sell to anyone in the world, right? And just say, all right, buy my course. It doesn't matter what age you are. And you have to agree to all of these terms, these legal terms, and agree to, being prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Well, of course, they're just going to click OK.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're going to come at them and call them a thief, right? In public. And then say, this is what's going to happen to you if you continue. And you agreed to this. And they're like, I don't know. Anyway, the issue stood with the privacy violations, and it was taken care of. But he did block me and doesn't want to speak with me. I don't have any issue with him at all. And I hope that he does correct his course, because this brings up a really valid issue. And if you're selling these courses, you have to understand who your audience is, and if they are underage, you need to have the consent.
Well, is he US based?
Yes,
he is US based.
So then he's invoking some US law at some state level, and
right.
They all need consent of the guardian.
100%. So I cite those laws in the tweets to him, and honestly, there was no pushback. There was no pushback on it at all. No one said no, and there was a lot of people that agreed and said, "Wow, we didn't know this. We didn't know that this was actually happening."
I don't want to say it's okay to not know, but you probably should if you're selling anything. I mean,
well, yeah,
especially as what I would term as basic as that, in sense of the difference between a minor and not.
And I think the other issue that I was raising was, you have to understand that if you're selling courses to an international, audience, you have to adhere to their specific guidelines when it comes to data privacy, right? So if you're selling to someone in Europe, you're talking about GDPR, right? Mm-hmm. You're talking about like data privacy that if you don't have these laws these policies in place that say we adhere to GDPR, we adhere to, PAA, whatever it may be, then you're actually putting yourself into a really risky situation, because if it says you cannot collect data on someone from our country, if they purchase something from your country, and if you don't follow those laws, you're in a world of hurt, right? Or if you have to collect a certain types of data, so do you have to submit to GDPR, right? I mean, this is the kind of things that you have to think about these days whenever you're creating these organizations or selling anything online that involves people's data. You have to keep this in mind. And that's what I was mentioning too. I cited all of the, these organizations that's super important. I hope he does get that message, because I don't want him to see, I don't want any, any harm to his business. I do actually, as I said, I agree with the content that you're making. You're very helpful. I can tell he got a good heart. It's just a situation that, that's kind of just escalated and it needed to come to light, I
think the internet makes it hard because there's no intonation. Like, you can send me a message and my interpretation of that message is solely based on how I read your voice in that message, right?
Right.
And that's why I think there's a lot of back and forth with people, because we don't talk to anybody anymore. It's all text or some version of a written word.
That's right. Yeah, I do tell people, if you have an issue, let's talk about it privately or on the side. And there's been many people that have been that opposed to what I've said or what I've or the code I've released, and we've actually come to really good understanding. Maybe not an agreement, right? But a mutual respect, and that's what it takes. Is, you're right. If we can talk to each other like humans, I think we can get further than yelling at each other and saying you're stupid or something on Twitter, because where does that fit into the argument, right?
But see, I like yelling at people to tell them to go fuck themselves.
I like that too.
That's fun and most often deserved.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Just remember, aggression counts. Enrage. I read this somewhere this weekend. Enragement counts as engagement on all these platforms. So the more that they have, is the more you're going to see it. It's going to happen because that's how they make their money. And I wish I could say I came up with that saying, but I read it this week and I just don't remember where.
Yeah, there's always a troll that's going to just pop up from somewhere and just say something random, it's weird, but that's how it is.
I want to send out a tweet, say hi.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. XSS Rat Wes, he put a tweet that said hi, and I think he got like 300 likes and like 200 retweets or something. I mean, it was awesome.
It's amazing the way things on Twitter take on, man. Like it's interesting.
There was someone yesterday talking about, Twitter life is Twitter life, and it generally accounts for like 1% of the InfoSec community around the world, right? Most of them are not even on there. There's just specific kind of people that are on there, right? And breaking in is like, just to break in and come up is really tough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, super tough. And how do you do that? How do you break into that community? You're supposedly already in, but the Twitter community kind of doesn't accept you until, well, I don't really know.
You got to either piss off the right person, the wrong person, or a really sweet 0 day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But usually, you got to suck up to the right people. And that's things in life. That's just, cybersecurity Twitter.
Of
and
course.
If you can't make it there, there's always Clubhouse where everyone's an expert.
It's not.
Oh my. Who are you?
I don't know if you've ever been on there, Jonathan.
Oh yeah. No.
Some of the stuff I hear on there, I just say why.
I love, I tell you, I love one room. And it's kind of off. It's kind of related. It's the birds or drones room.
Okay.
So it's,
we'll go down that route.
Oh, that one is so good. My wife and I, a joke, and we're saying, so if there's a bird, flying around, I said, well, he's probably going to recharge here in a second, jump on a power line, and so
there are people that believe that, and that's the thing.
Yeah, I love it. I love that room, and it's kind of, I'm super open to everything, right? I just want to hear people's, I want to hear their views, right? I may not agree with it. I don't have to agree with it, but I love their views, and it's just like, this, to someone that's the reality, and I want to respect that. I just like, some people ask the questions, right? They ask these questions. Well, if all birds are drones, well, how, when we're eating, how come we don't see any, mechanical parts? And they say, well, they kind of dissolve whenever they die, all these parts dissolve, and they have this, like, and they're so just like matter of fact about it. And I'm just like, that is, it's super convincing. I'm like, wow, maybe, what's in my chicken nugget? Who knows, right?
I always say, I say this to Eric once a day. It's a whole new world out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he invariably comes back with some Aladdin joke at me, but that's okay.
Yeah.
My flying carpet is green.
But yeah, I'm on Clubhouse. I do some talks. I'm a guest in a few clubs, and people ask me to speak, but I've never hosted my own room or anything.
That's how we started this, actually.
Yeah, Clubhouse.
Him and I would just go on, start blabbing to each other. We've known each other for a while. Like, hey, let's record this. Hey, let's make a podcast. Hey, let's do video and a podcast. Hey, let's try to be bigger than Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
We're going to answer that question in about the next 65 years, if we get there or not.
Yeah, I think if you have the content and the right people, you can get there. I have no doubt for sure.
The dude now is going to start blowing shit up.
Dude, I am brown. Do not say that. They're going to take you serious. You're green. I am brown. Let's not go down that road. He was joking for whoever's listening. God damn it.
Right.
But, we've had some interesting guests on recently, and I count you among that. Like,
thank you.
We want to put out a podcast that people can listen to, have a few laughs, and learn something.
Yeah.
If that's what they get, then I'm happy with that. So.
Yeah, I think it's always good that you can actually listen, right? So a lot of times I'm working, and I'm listening to something in the background, I mean, I think that's super important to have that fluid dialogue, I think that we've been having, and, kind of engaging in that sense,
Yeah, your subconscious picks up on a lot of things when you have that stuff going on in the background. So
Yeah, for sure.
cool. Well, I do want to be mindful of your time. I know we are
sure.
way over than what we asked you to come on for.
Oh, it was fun. It was
thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm going to enjoy editing it even more.
When he says that, there's like almost no editing.
Yeah.
So editing is we put an intro screen, we put an outro screen, and then I wait the 35 million hours for my computer to render this, and that's it. Game over.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
it goes pretty much untouched from the content-wise. So how do the people get in touch with you if you want them to, that is?
Yes. So Twitter /Jonathan Data 1 is the easiest way. And every platform is the same, Jonathan Data 1, and 0hak.com to, sign up for free classes. All my classes are free. You can click the link at the top and sign up for the class and join. We have moderators all around the world, and in our Discord, which is TruthSec. That's TruthSec, TruthSec, Truth Security, and it's a safe space, right? We really, really keep it to clean, no bullying, things like that. I mean,
do I get to drop the F-bomb?
Yeah, all day long. You can drop it all day long.
How the F are you guys?
Hey, Fers.
Language accepted.
But yeah, so Discord, we have, a classroom, we have teachers in the classroom that teach. So we really have a good, community, programs, lots of community programs. We, hacktree.org. We just finished a chess tournament, or the top prize won $2,000, and everyone else, from positions 8 and up, at least won $250. So we're always engaging the community, giving back, prizes, phones, things like that are, people donate, right, to the organization, to the nonprofit, and then we give back. Everything gives back to the community. So lots of ways to engage.
Cool.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, are you still here? Are you still listening to this? Holy crap, it's been a long episode. If you're still here, thanks so much for tuning in. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thanks again to Jonathan for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Please, if you found this information useful, helpful, you think someone else will benefit from it, please, on YouTube or your favorite audio streaming, please share this with somebody. And until next time, take care.